Hello everyone, myself Gayatri Gautam. I'm Assistant Professor in Education Department of MG College. Welcome to the class and today we'll be starting off with a few basic concepts. This class is precisely for B.Ed 4th semester students and today we'll be covering the second unit, that is language proficiency in English, which is translation, rules of translation. Now, the first question arises in our mind is that what actually is translation? The English word translation derives from the Latin word translatio, which comes from trans, which is across, and fere, which is to carry. Thus, translation is a carrying across or a bringing across, in this case, of a text from one language to another. Translation is the communication of the meaning of a source language text by the means of equivalent target language text. The English language draws a terminological distinction between translation, oral signed communication between users of different language. Under this distinction, translation begin only after appearance of writing within a language community. Translator always risks inadvertently introducing source language words, grammar or syntax into target language rendering. On the other hand, such spillovers have sometimes imported useful source language calques and loanwords that have enriched target languages. Coming to the next topic, the principles of translation. The first thing to remember is that translation is the transfer of meaning from one language to another. It is not the transfer of words from language to language. On screen, you can see the description, and to break this down into simpler terms, the point which has to be kept in mind is the meaning. Word-to-word translation is not important. The true essence has to be conveyed to the receiver. Next is steps in translation. First, read the whole of the original source story through from the beginning to end to make sure that you can understand it. If you cannot understand everything that is said, you cannot translate it. If there are any words or phrases that you do not understand, you must clarify these first. You may decide that the ideas they express are too difficult to translate or not worth translating, but you need to know what they are before you can judge. Second, do a draft translation, trying to translate all the source material, but do not translate word for word. Remember that you are translating the meaning. When you have finished the first translation, you will now have a draft story in the target language. Third, go back over the whole of your draft translation and polish it without looking at the source original. Make sure that your translation reads well in the target language. Last but not the least, fourth point, compare the final version of your translation with the source original to make sure that you have translated it accurately. This is when you can make any detailed adjustments in individual words or phrases. Well, to understand basics of this concept, we need to catch hold of parts of speech in English language, which are noun, pronoun, verb, adjectives, adverbs, interjunctions, and conjunctions. Along with the verb tenses, which are broadly categorized under four heads, which are the simple tense, progressive tense, perfect tenses, and perfect progressive tenses. In order to understand verb tenses and use it efficiently, here are the parts of sentences transformation which namely are assertive sentences, exclamatory sentences, negative sentences, and interrogative sentences. These will be further explained in detail in the next unit, in the next session. Coming to the next part of the class, beware while translating, where here are a few things that you should always keep in mind while translating a particular sentence from one language to another. First, false friends. Beware of words or phrases we call as false friends. These are words in the original source language which you retain in your translation, often because you cannot think of the correct translation. If you cannot think of the right word, how can you expect your reader or listener to? Of course, language borrow from each other all the time. If a society comes across a new idea, it may simply use the foreign word without investing a word of its own. Remember, however, that you are translating the meaning and not the word. Next, dictionaries. You cannot translate words in isolation. Words get their meaning from how they are used in each situation or what we call their context. You must do a contextual translation. You should use a bilingual dictionary where one is available, but be careful when looking up translations for individual words. Dictionaries are useful, but there is very often more than one translation for individual words. The best dictionary is one which defines the word in its various contexts. For example, a simple English word like skip has several quite different meanings. Writing style. You do not have to be an expert in linguistics to make good translations. If you know your target language well, you can usually hear it in your head whether the sentence sounds correct in your translation. Your translation should not try to duplicate the word or grammatical construction used in the source language unless it is correct in your target language. For example, some languages put the verb or the doing verb at the beginning of the sentence, some in the middle of the sentence, and some at the end of the verb. Writing style. Okay, sorry, we have done the writing style. Next, and some other problems which can be seen on the screen are understatements and euphemisms, linking words, accuracy, ambiguity, names and titles, translation during gatherings. Coming to the rules, here are some do's and don'ts for translating, as don't just read the text, listen to voice in your head, work on the first sentence over and over again, do the first draft quickly, don't interrupt the flow to puzzle over difficulties in the text, necessary translate expressions the first time around, inspect the register of language as well as the era, avoid looking at the source, always respect author's intentions. The detailed description has been shown on your screen. Please go through it. With this, we come to the end of the class, and this was Gayatri Gautam signing off, and hope this class was helpful for you, and we'll be catching up with you in the next class. Thank you so much.